The metallic taste of recycled air filled Captain Rex Halverson's lungs as he stared across the negotiation table. 3 Zarnak envoys sat opposite him, their scaled skin reflecting the harsh artificial light of the orbital embassy. Outside the reinforced viewports, Jatar 4's lavender sky stretched endlessly, its beauty belying the tension that filled the sterile room. Rex's scarred face remained impassive as the lead Zarnak envoy continued her elaborate speech. The words flowing through the interpreter droid's synthesized voice with mechanical precision. Duh. And so the great Zarnak matriarchy extends its scaled hand in friendship, as we have done for 7 generations of stellar cycles. We seek only harmony among the stars. Captain Halverson, surely your Earth Directorate understands the delicate balance we maintain. Rex watched the envoy's secondary eyelids flicker, a tell he'd come to recognize during the 17 days of circular negotiations. The Zarnaks were lying. Again. Without warning, Rex reached for his regulation sidearm. The movement sent the Zarnak delegation into a flurry of agitated clicks and hisses, their crests flaring with alarm. The interpreter droid's photoreceptors swiveled frantically between the parties. With deliberate slowness, Rex placed his pistol on the polished table surface. The metallic thunk echoed through the suddenly silent chamber. "We're done talking," he said. As if responding to his words, sirens began to wail throughout the embassy complex. The lead Zarnak envoy's crest flattened against her skull as a brilliant flash lit up the viewport, the first kinetic strike from the human fleet vaporizing the Zarnak cruiser in high orbit. "Captain, what have you done?" The interpreter droid's voice modulator struggled to maintain its neutral tone. Rex stood, straightening his uniform. "Exactly what I said. We're done talking." The embassy trembled as more explosions blossomed in orbit. The Zarnak envoys huddled together, their proud postures now hunched with fear. 17 days, Rex continued, not bothering to raise his voice. 17 days of lies while your ships positioned disruptors on 3 treaty worlds. 17 days while your stealth vessels deployed mines along Earth trade routes. He tapped his earpiece. "Halverson to command. Commence Operation Resolute Hammer." The lead envoy lunged forward. "This is madness. You cannot—" "I already have." Rex nodded to the Marines, who had silently entered the room. "Secure them. No harm, unless they resist." As the Marines escorted the Zarnak delegation away, Rex moved to the viewport. Below, on Jatar 4's surface, bright flashes of light indicated where human drop pods were already breaching the atmosphere. The decisive action had begun. The interpreter droid hovered uncertainly at his side. "Captain, Protocol 7 Alpha requires me to inform you that this action constitutes a violation of—" "Power down, interpreter. Your services are no longer required." The droid obediently went silent, its lights dimming to standby mode. Rex took one last look at the orbital battlefield forming above Jatar 4. Humanity had extended its hand in peace for decades, only to be met with deception and carefully disguised hostility. The Zarnak and their allies had mistaken human patience for weakness. Today, that misconception would be corrected. His comm unit chimed. "Command dome secure, Captain," came the crisp report. "Awaiting your presence." "On my way," Rex replied, turning from the viewport. The time for words had ended. Now, only actions would speak. Chaos reigned in the command dome. Holographic displays flickered with real-time battle data as officers coordinated the assault on multiple fronts. The curved ceiling projected a tactical overview of Jatar 4, with red markers indicating Zarnak strongholds and blue arrows showing human force deployments. Rex strode through the center of the activity, officers and technicians parting before him. At the main strategic console stood Commander Liza Vega, her dark hair pulled back in a tight regulation bun, her expression grim as she monitored incoming data. "Status report," Rex demanded as he reached her side. Vega glanced up. Civilian evacuation proceeding in sectors 1 through 4. Marines have secured all embassy exits. Orbital control established. We've neutralized 7 Zarnak vessels. 3 more have jumped to FTL. And ground operations? Drop pods have deployed to primary targets. 87% successful insertion rate. Orbital cannons are targeting outer defensive bases as we speak. Rex nodded, studying the tactical display. Any response from the Galactic Accord? Nothing yet, sir, but I expect we'll hear from them within the hour. By then, it'll be too late for diplomatic posturing. Rex tapped a series of commands into the console, bringing up a detailed view of the embassy courtyard. What's happening here? Vega's expression tightened. The remaining Zarnak diplomatic staff. They're attempting to access their emergency beacon. Cut them off. No transmissions leave this moon until we're finished. Already done, sir. A young lieutenant approached, his uniform still crisp despite the surrounding chaos. Captain Halverson, the Zarnak envoys are requesting to speak with you. They claim they can explain everything. Rex didn't look up from the console. There's nothing to explain. We have intercepted communications, weapon signatures, deployment patterns. The evidence is overwhelming. Sir, they insist. Lieutenant. Rex finally turned to face the young officer. When I said we're done talking, I meant it. The time for negotiations ended when we confirmed their disruptor network on Proxima Centauri. The lieutenant swallowed hard. Yes, sir. Now, get me a direct line to Admiral Vance. I want the second wave ready to deploy as soon as we've secured the primary targets. As the lieutenant hurried away, Vega stepped closer to Rex, lowering her voice. The men are calling it the Halverson Doctrine now. When a human says we're done talking, everyone goes silent. Rex's scarred face remained impassive. It's not a doctrine. It's just the truth. A sudden commotion at the far end of the command dome drew their attention. One of the Zarnak envoys had broken free from custody and was charging toward the main doors, flanked by 2 guards who appeared to have switched sides. "Security breach!" shouted a Marine by the entrance, raising his pulse rifle. Rex's hand moved to his sidearm, but before he could draw, precise shots rang out. The rogue guards fell, and the Zarnak envoy froze, surrounded by Marines with weapons trained on its scaled form. "Take it back to containment," Rex ordered, turning back to the tactical display. "Double the guard and scan everyone for Zarnak pheromone exposure." Vega nodded, already issuing the commands through her comm unit. "Captain, we're receiving a signal from the watchtower complex on the surface. It appears they're attempting to coordinate a counteroffensive." "Show me." The holographic display shifted to a fortified structure nestled in the rocky terrain of Jatar 4. Thermal imaging revealed dozens of life forms moving with purpose, gathering weapons and boarding ground transports. "They're mobilizing faster than we anticipated," Vega observed. Rex studied the pattern of movement, years of combat experience allowing him to read the Zarnak tactics like an open book. They're not defending. They're evacuating. The watchtower is a decoy. The real communication array must be elsewhere. He expanded the tactical map, scanning the surrounding terrain. There, he pointed to a seemingly insignificant outcropping 5 kilometers east of the watchtower. That's not on any of the official schematics. Vega zoomed in on the location, running sensor sweeps. "You're right. Heavy power signatures, shielded from casual detection. That's our primary target. Redirect Fireteam Alpha to that position. I want that array neutralized before they can call for reinforcements." "What about the watchtower personnel?" Rex considered for a moment. "They've chosen their side. Warn them once to surrender. After that, they're combatants." The lieutenant returned, slightly out of breath. "Captain, Admiral Vance is online in the secure comm room." "Very well." Rex turned to Vega. "Commander, you have the command dome. I want regular updates on the ground operation." "Yes, sir." As Rex made his way to the secure communications facility, he caught snippets of conversation among the embassy staff. Some spoke with fervent approval of the decisive action, while others whispered concerns about galactic repercussions. He ignored them all. Second-guessing had no place in combat operations. The secure comm room was a small, windowless chamber designed to prevent any form of eavesdropping. As the door sealed behind him, the wall-sized screen flickered to life, revealing the stern face of Fleet Admiral Vance. The Admiral's silver hair and weathered features spoke of decades of service, but his eyes remained sharp and calculating. "Captain Halverson," Vance greeted him without preamble. "I see you've initiated Resolute Hammer." "Yes, Admiral. The Zarnak left us no choice." Vance nodded slowly. "The Directorate is divided on this action, but you have my full support. The evidence was conclusive." "Thank you, sir. We've established orbital control and ground teams are securing key positions as we speak." "Casualties?" "Minimal on our side. We caught them unprepared." Vance's expression remained grave. "That won't last. The Zarnak have hidden resources, and they fight with religious fervor when cornered." "We're prepared for that, sir." "Are you?" Vance leaned forward. "This isn't just about Jatar Fu, Rex. This is about sending a message to the entire Galactic Accord. Humanity will no longer be deceived or manipulated. We demand the same respect afforded to species that have been spacefaring for millennia." Rex straightened his posture. "With all due respect, Admiral, I'm more concerned with completing this operation than with interstellar politics." A hint of a smile crossed Vance's face. "That's why you're the one leading it, Captain. Your focus is admirable." The smile faded. "But remember, how we conduct ourselves in victory will determine how the galactic community responds. Be firm, but not cruel. Decisive, but not vindictive." "Understood, sir. The second wave will reach your position in 4 hours. By then, I expect you to have secured the primary objectives and prepared for potential counterattacks from other Zarnak outposts." "We'll be ready, Admiral." Vance's gaze seemed to penetrate through the screen. "And Captain, watch for the Matriarch. Intelligence suggests she may be on Jatar 4, despite official reports placing her on the homeworld." Rex's eyes narrowed. "The Matriarch herself? That would explain the unusual level of deception. Find her if you can. She could be the key to ending this conflict before it escalates further." "Yes, sir." The Admiral's image flickered as distant explosions rattled the embassy structure. "It seems you have work to do, Captain." Vance out. As the screen went dark, Rex stood motionless for a moment, considering the Admiral's words. The presence of the Zarnak High Matriarch would elevate this from a border skirmish to a potential turning point in human-Zarnak relations, if they could capture her. His comm unit chimed, interrupting his thoughts. "Captain, this is Vega. We have a situation in the courtyard. The remaining Zarnak diplomatic staff have barricaded themselves in the ceremonial chamber and are threatening to detonate some kind of device. On my way." As Rex hurried back to the command dome, the embassy shuddered under another series of impacts. The Zarnak ground forces must have begun their counterattack. The real battle was just beginning. The courtyard's ceremonial chamber had once been a symbol of interspecies cooperation, a circular space with architectural elements from 12 different civilizations, designed to make all feel welcome. Now, it had become a battleground. Rex approached cautiously, flanked by a squad of Marines led by Sergeant Hall, a compact woman whose reputation for calm under fire was legendary among the Corps. Through the reinforced glass walls, he could see a group of Zarnak officials huddled around a pulsing device at the center of the chamber. "What do we know?" Rex asked, keeping his voice low. Hall gestured toward the standoff. 8 Zarnak diplomatic staff, 2 security personnel. They've activated what appears to be a ritual device, but our scanners indicate it contains enough energetic material to breach the embassy dome. Suicide was never part of Zarnak doctrine, Rex mused, studying the aliens' movements. "They're stalling." "For what, sir?" I intend to find out. Rex checked his sidearm and straightened his uniform. Cover me, but hold your fire unless I give the signal. Captain, Hall protested. Protocol dictates. I'm well aware of protocol, Sergeant. But sometimes the direct approach yields results. He stepped toward the chamber entrance. If I'm not out in 5 minutes, breach and neutralize the threat. The ceremonial chamber doors parted with a soft hiss. Inside, the air was thick with the musky scent of agitated Zarnak. The diplomatic staff turned as one, their crests rising in alarm at Rex's entrance. Captain Halverson, hissed the lead Zarnak, a slender female with elaborately painted scales. You come alone? How brave. Or foolish. Rex remained by the door, hands visible but ready to move. I come to understand why the proud Zarnak would resort to suicide. It seems out of character for your people. The Zarnak's secondary eyelids flickered rapidly. Perhaps you do not know us as well as you believe. Human. Perhaps not. But I know this, Rex gestured to the pulsing device, is not what it appears to be. A ripple of unease passed through the gathered aliens. The lead diplomat took a step forward. You know nothing of our ways or our resolve. I know enough. Rex moved further into the room, calculating distances and angles. That device isn't a bomb. It's a long-range communicator, designed to penetrate our jamming field. The Zarnak hissed, confirming his suspicion. Who are you trying to contact? Rex pressed. Your fleet? The matriarch? At the mention of the matriarch, the Zarnak diplomat's posture changed subtly, a tensing of muscles, a slight lowering of the head. Recognition. So she is here, Rex concluded. Anjatar Fur, directing operations personally. You will never find her, the diplomat spat. And when her wrath is unleashed, your species will learn the true meaning of regret. Rex took another step forward. I respectfully disagree. Humanity has extended every courtesy, followed every convoluted ritual your people demanded. In return, you plotted against us, positioned weapons on treaty worlds, and prepared for war while speaking of peace. He was within 3 meters of the device now. We're done being deceived. We're done pretending that endless talks will resolve fundamental conflicts. Sometimes, clarity comes only through decisive action. The Zarnak security personnel moved to intercept him, clawed hands reaching for concealed weapons. Rex's movement was fluid and practiced, his sidearm clearing its holster and firing 2 precise stun pulses before the aliens could react. They collapsed in twitching heaps, their nervous systems temporarily overloaded. The diplomatic staff backed away, crests flattening in submission. The device, Rex demanded, his weapon now trained on the lead diplomat. Deactivate it. I cannot, she replied, desperation edging into her voice. It is keyed to my life signs. If I am harmed... No one said anything about harming you. Rex holstered his weapon and approached the device. Its alien construction defied easy analysis, but he recognized enough of the components to understand its function. This is a standard Zarnak emergency beacon with modifications. Sergeant Hall. The Marine sergeant entered the chamber, rifle at the ready. Have the science team examine this device? I want to know its destination coordinates. Yes, sir, Hall signaled to her team, who moved in to secure the device, and the Zarnak staff. The lead diplomat watched with impotent rage as her last hope of communication was taken away. This changes nothing, Captain. The matriarch has planned for every contingency. Even now, forces are gathering that will overwhelm your puny assault. Rex regarded her with a level gaze. If that were true, you wouldn't have needed this beacon. He turned to leave, then paused. For what it's worth, I take no pleasure in this conflict. But when diplomacy becomes a shield for deception, more direct measures become necessary. You humans, the diplomat hissed, so young among the stars, yet so arrogant. You will learn your place in the cosmos. Perhaps, Rex acknowledged. But not today, and not at Zarnak hands. Outside the ceremonial chamber, Commander Vega waited with an update. Captain, we've secured the embassy perimeter. Ground teams report the communication array has been located and is under assault. Good. What about the watchtower? As you predicted, largely evacuated. The remaining forces surrendered when confronted with superior firepower. Rex nodded, processing the information. And orbital operations? Complete control established. The Zarnak fleet has withdrawn to the outer system, but remains in defensive formation. They're waiting for reinforcements. Rex checked the time. We have less than 3 hours before the second wave arrives. We need to locate the matriarch before then. Vega frowned. You believe she's actually here? That would be unprecedented. The Zarnak diplomat confirmed it. If not in words, then in reaction. The matriarch is directing this operation personally, which means she must consider it of vital importance. But where would she be? The Zarnak have dozens of facilities on Jatar 4. Rex considered for a moment. Not the official facilities. Those would be too obvious. He turned to the tactical display, expanding the map of the moon's surface. The Zarnak value sacred spaces, places of ritual significance. Look for geological anomalies, formations that match their religious symbolism. Vega worked the controls, applying the search parameters. After a moment, the display highlighted a region near the moon's southern pole. There, a formation of 7 needle-like rock spires, arranged in a pattern similar to the Zarnak creation mythology. Any structures? Nothing official, but thermal scans show activity beneath the surface. Some kind of bunker complex. Rex studied the location. It was defensible, remote, and symbolically significant. Exactly the kind of place a Zarnak leader would choose for a secret base. That's it. That's where we'll find her. It's heavily defended, sir. The approach is exposed, and our scans indicate energy signatures consistent with advanced weapon systems. Then we'll need a precision strike team. Rex tapped his comm unit. Halverson to Fire Team Bravo. Report to the command dome immediately. He turned back to Vega. Prepare a dropship. I'm leading this one personally. Vega's expression showed concern. Captain, protocol dictates that you remain at the command center during active operations. Protocol also dictates that opportunities of strategic significance be seized without delay. Rex checked his equipment. The matriarch is the key to ending this conflict quickly. I intend to be there when she's captured. Before Vega could protest further, the doors to the command dome slid open to admit Fire Team Bravo, 6 Marines in full combat gear, led by Lieutenant Jennings, a tall, lean soldier with a reputation for unconventional tactics. Fire Team Bravo reporting as ordered, Captain, Jennings announced, his team forming a precise line behind him. Rex nodded in acknowledgement. We have a high-value target to secure. I'll brief you en route. He turned to Vega. Commander, you have command of the embassy operation. Continue securing our objectives and prepare for the second wave's arrival. Yes, sir, Vega replied, her professional demeanor masking her reservations. Good hunting, Captain. As Rex led Fire Team Bravo toward the dropship bay, emergency lighting bathed the corridors in a red glow. The embassy continued to shudder occasionally, as distant explosions marked the ongoing battle for control of Jatar 4. In the dropship bay, a sleek, matte black vessel waited, its engines already cycling up for immediate departure. The pilot, a grizzled veteran named Takeda, saluted as Rex approached. Birds ready, Captain. Just point me where to go. Southern Polar Region. Uploading coordinates now. Rex transferred the data from his tactical pad. We'll need terrain following approach. Minimal signature. Takeda grinned. Stealth insertion is my specialty, sir. As Fire Team Bravo boarded the dropship, Rex took a moment to survey the bay. Through the force field that separated the bay from the vacuum of space, he could see Jatar 4's surface. Flashes of light indicated ongoing battles, while contrails from orbital strikes cut white lines across the lavender sky. This was the reality of war, not the sterile negotiations or diplomatic posturing, but the raw exercise of power to achieve definitive ends. Rex had no illusions about the costs, but he also understood the necessity. Sometimes, peace could only be achieved through the decisive application of force. The dropship's engines rose to a high-pitched whine as Takeda completed his pre-flight checks. Rex boarded last, sealing the hatch behind him. Inside, Fireteam Bravo had already secured themselves in the acceleration harnesses. "Listen up," Rex began, as he strapped himself in. "Our target is the Zarnak High Matriarch, believed to be in a bunker complex beneath the rock formation, at the coordinates I've provided. This is a capture mission. The Matriarch is to be taken alive, if at all possible." Lieutenant Jennings nodded. "Rules of engagement, sir?" "Standard protocol for high-value target extraction. Minimum force necessary. But your lives come first. If the Zarnak forces engage, you are authorized to respond with appropriate force." The dropship lurched as it lifted off, then accelerated rapidly out of the bay. G-forces pressed Rex back into his seat as Takeda executed a steep descent toward Jatar 4's surface. "Intel on the defenses?" asked Corporal Diaz, the team's tactical specialist. "Limited," Rex admitted. "We know there are energy weapons emplacements and likely a significant guard force. The complex appears to be primarily underground, so expect close-quarters combat in confined spaces." "Sounds like a party," muttered Private Chen, checking the charge on his pulse rifle. "The Zarnak will fight to protect their leader," Rex continued. "But remember, they're not suicidal. If we demonstrate overwhelming force and clear resolve, many will surrender rather than die needlessly." The dropship banked sharply, following the contours of Jatar 4's rugged terrain. Through the viewport, Rex could see the landscape rushing by, a barren expanse of red-tinged rock and dust, occasionally broken by patches of alien vegetation. 2 minutes to insertion point, Takeda called from the cockpit. "Hold on, we've got company." The dropship jerked violently as Takeda executed evasive maneuvers. Outside, streaks of energy fire cut through the air around them. "Surface-to-air defenses," the pilot reported. "Automated systems. Looks like no direct hits yet." Rex unstrapped from his harness and moved to the cockpit. "Can you get us through?" "Yes, sir, but not to the original landing zone. We'll have to set down about a kilometer out and approach on foot." "Do it." The dropship dove lower, hugging the terrain so closely that rock formations seemed to scrape the hull. More energy beams lanced around them, but Takeda's evasive flying kept them from taking direct hits. 30 seconds, the pilot called. Rex returned to the troop compartment. "Change of plans. We're landing short and moving in on foot. Stealth approach, standard formation. Jennings, you have point." The team acknowledged with professional efficiency, checking weapons and equipment as the dropship decelerated sharply. With a bone-jarring thud, they touched down, and the side hatch immediately began to open. "Go! Go! Go!" Rex ordered. Fireteam Bravo deployed in practiced sequence, securing a perimeter around the dropship. Rex followed, the harsh air of Jatar 4 filling his lungs as he stepped onto the alien surface. The gravity was slightly lower than Earth standard, giving each movement an unsettling lightness. "Takeda, get airborne and find a concealed position. Stand by for extraction on my signal." "Copy that, Captain. Good hunting." The dropship lifted off in a swirl of dust, its engines fading to a distant whine as it disappeared behind a ridge. Rex consulted his tactical display. "This way. Stay low and watch for sensor arrays." The landscape was treacherous. Shifting red dust concealed unexpected crevasses, while jagged rock formations offered both cover and potential ambush points. In the distance, the 7 spires of the target location rose like accusing fingers pointing at the sky. Fireteam Bravo moved with practiced stealth, using natural cover and maintaining constant situational awareness. Rex stayed in the middle of the formation, his senses alert for any sign of Zarnak presence. They had covered perhaps half the distance when Lieutenant Jennings raised a closed fist, the signal to halt. The team froze in place as Jennings slowly pointed to a patch of disturbed dust ahead. Rex moved forward to examine it. The dust pattern was unnatural, too uniform, too precisely spaced. "Pressure plates," he whispered. "Perimeter defense system." Jennings nodded. "We can bypass it, but it'll slow us down." "Time is critical," Rex decided. "We need a diversion." He pointed to a rocky outcropping about 200 meters to their left. "Plant charges there. When they detonate, the defense system will focus on that sector. We'll cross during the confusion." Corporal Diaz, the demolitions expert, moved carefully to the designated location, placing shaped charges designed to create maximum noise and visual signature with minimal actual damage. When he returned, Rex checked the detonator. "On my mark. 3, 2, 1, mark." The charges exploded with a thunderous roar, sending rock fragments and dust high into the air. Almost immediately, the ground around the explosion erupted with energy fire as hidden defensive weapons targeted the disturbance. "Now!" Rex ordered. The team sprinted across the pressure plate field, their movements swift and purposeful. As predicted, the automated defense system remained focused on the explosion site, allowing them to pass undetected. Once clear, they regrouped behind a natural rock barrier. The 7 spires were now much closer, their imposing presence dominating the horizon. At their base, Rex could see the subtle signs of artificial construction. 2 regular openings, the glint of metal among the rock. "That's our target," he confirmed. "Approach from the eastern face, less visibility from the main entrance." As they maneuvered toward the position, Rex's comm unit chimed softly. "Halverson," he answered in a low voice. "Captain, this is Commander Vega. The science team has analyzed the communication device from the ceremonial chamber. It was set to transmit to coordinates in the Zarnak home system, but with an unusual encryption pattern." "Meaning?" "It wasn't meant for the military command. It was a direct line to the Zarnak religious leadership." Rex processed this information. "That confirms our theory. The matriarch is operating independently, possibly without the full knowledge of the Zarnak military hierarchy." "There's more, sir." The message it was preparing to send contained references to something called the Ascension Protocol. "We're still working on the translation, but it appears to be some kind of doomsday scenario." A cold sensation settled in Rex's stomach. "Understood. Continue the analysis and forward any findings directly to my tactical pad." Halverson out. Lieutenant Jennings had overheard the conversation. "Doomsday scenario, sir?" "Potentially, which makes our mission even more critical." Rex surveyed the approach to the Spire complex. "We need to move faster. The matriarch may be preparing something we can't allow to happen." The team accelerated their pace, sacrificing some stealth for speed. As they neared the eastern face of the Spire formation, they encountered the first signs of Zarnak guards, 2 sentries patrolling a narrow path that led to a concealed entrance. Rex signaled to Private Torres, the team's marksman. Torres nodded, taking careful aim with his stun rifle. 2 silent shots later, the Zarnak guards lay unconscious on the dusty ground. "Secure them," Rex ordered. "Check for communication devices." Corporal Diaz quickly bound the unconscious aliens with restraint cuffs and removed their equipment. "Standard comms, sir. Looks like they report in every 15 minutes. "That gives us a window." Rex examined the entrance, a narrow opening carved into the living rock, illuminated by soft bioluminescent panels in the Zarnak style. "Jennings, take point. Standard breach procedure." The team stacked up at the entrance, weapons ready. With a nod from Rex, they moved in, sweeping the initial chamber for threats. The interior was cool and humid, tailored to Zarnak physiological preferences. The walls bore elaborate etchings depicting Zarnak mythology and history. "Clear," Jennings reported after checking the first chamber. "Passage continues downward." Rex consulted his scanner. Multiple life signs below, consistent with a significant security presence. He studied the layout. Two main approaches. We'll take the left passage. It's narrower, less likely to be heavily guarded. The team proceeded carefully down the sloping corridor, the bioluminescent lighting casting an eerie blue glow over their forms. The air grew thicker, with the distinctive musky scent of Zarnak pheromones, a sign of many aliens in close proximity. At the first junction, they encountered resistance, 4 Zarnak guards who reacted with startled hisses at the sight of human intruders. The firefight was brief, but intense, energy bolts scorching the ancient stone as both sides sought cover. "Take them alive if possible," Rex reminded his team as he returned fire. Lieutenant Jennings flanked the position, tossing a neural disruptor grenade that exploded in a flash of crackling energy. The Zarnak guards collapsed, their nervous systems temporarily scrambled. "Clear," Jennings reported. "But they'll have heard that." "Then we move fast." Rex checked his tactical pad, noting a large chamber ahead. "That's likely our target. Prepare for heavy resistance." The passage widened as they approached the chamber, the etchings on the walls becoming more elaborate and ritualistic. Rex recognized symbols of Zarnak royalty and religious significance, clear indications they were approaching a space of importance. At the chamber entrance, Rex held up his hand, signaling the team to halt. Carefully, he peered around the edge. The space beyond was vast, a natural cavern enhanced by Zarnak engineering. Stalactites hung from the ceiling like stone teeth, while the floor was leveled and polished to a reflective sheen. At the center stood a raised dais surrounded by 7 smaller pillars, mirroring the spire formation above ground. And there, seated upon an ornate throne on the dais, was their target, the Zarnak High Matriarch. Even by Zarnak standards, she was impressive, larger than the average of her species, with elaborately patterned scales in deep purple and gold. A ceremonial headdress adorned her crest, and her clawed hands rested on what appeared to be some kind of control panel integrated into the throne's armrests. Most surprising was the lack of guards in the chamber. The matriarch sat alone, as if expecting visitors. "Something's wrong," Rex murmured. "This is too easy." Lieutenant Jennings scanned the chamber with his tactical sensors. "No life signs except for the matriarch, sir. But I'm detecting unusual energy readings throughout the chamber." "Traps?" "Possibly. Or some kind of defensive system we're not familiar with." Rex considered their options. A frontal assault seemed unnecessarily risky, but stealth was no longer possible. The matriarch was certainly aware of their presence after the earlier firefight. "Cover me," he decided. "I'm going to approach directly. Be ready to extract both of us quickly if things go wrong." "Captain," Jennings protested, "protocol dictates—" "I'm well aware of protocol, Lieutenant. But this situation calls for a personal touch." Rex checked his sidearm. "If I'm not back in 5 minutes, or if you hear weapons fire, breach the chamber and extract me by force." Before Jennings could object further, Rex stepped into the open, his weapon holstered, but his hand resting near it. He walked with deliberate steps toward the dais, his eyes fixed on the Zarnak matriarch. As he approached, the alien ruler's secondary eyelids flickered rapidly, a sign of interest or perhaps amusement. "Captain Rex Halverson," the matriarch spoke, her voice surprisingly melodious despite the harsh consonants of human language. "You have come far to find me." Rex stopped at the base of the dais, maintaining a respectful distance. "High Matriarch, I represent the Earth Directorate in this matter. Your presence on Jatar Fur, combined with the recent actions of your military forces, constitutes a clear violation of the treaty between our peoples." The matriarch made a gesture that might have been the Zarnak equivalent of a shrug. "Treaties are but words on crystalline tablets. Captain, they bend and flex with the necessities of survival. The disruptor network on Proxima Centauri was not a matter of survival. It was an act of aggression. Preparation, the matriarch corrected. Your species advances too quickly, consumes too voraciously. The balance of power shifts with each passing cycle. We merely sought to stabilize the equation. Rex's expression remained impassive. By positioning weapons capable of destroying human settlements, that's not stabilization. It's intimidation. Call it what you will. The matriarch's clawed fingers tapped a rhythm on her control panel. It matters little now. You have demonstrated your species' resolve in a manner even the most skeptical of my advisors cannot ignore. Then you understand why I'm here. The Earth Directorate requires your surrender and a full withdrawal of Zarnak forces from all treaty worlds. The matriarch's crest flattened slightly, a sign of contemplation rather than submission. And if I refuse? Then the human fleet will expand this operation to include all Zarnak military installations within 50 light-years of Earth space. Admiral Vance has the authorization and the resources to make that happen. For a long moment, the matriarch was silent, her alien features unreadable to human eyes. Then, slowly, she rose from her throne. You speak with clarity, Captain Halverson. It is refreshing in its way. For too long, our interactions with your kind have been clouded by diplomatic obfuscation and ritual posturing. She descended the steps of the dais until she stood at eye level with Rex. This close, he could see the intricate patterns on her scales, the ancient wisdom in her gaze. I will accompany you, she said finally. Not as a prisoner, but as a guest of the Earth Directorate. Together, we will forge a new understanding between our peoples, one based on honest recognition of our mutual strength, rather than pretense of equality. Rex nodded slowly. Those terms are acceptable, provided you order the immediate withdrawal of all Zarnak forces from treaty worlds and the dismantling of the disruptor network. It shall be done. The matriarch reached for a communication device on her belt. But first, Captain, there is something you should see. She activated a holographic display that sprang to life between them. It showed a series of images. Zarnak ships withdrawing from various positions, weapon installations powering down, troops returning to transports. I issued these orders the moment your assault began, the matriarch explained. Not out of fear, but out of curiosity. I wished to see how your kind would proceed when met with diminishing resistance. Rex studied the images with suspicion. You planned this? Let us say I anticipated various outcomes. Your species has been a subject of fascination for me since your first ventures beyond your solar system. So young, yet so determined, so fragile, yet so resilient. The matriarch deactivated the holographic display. The Zarnak have existed for millennia, Captain. We have seen empires rise and fall among the stars, yet never have we encountered a species that moves with such purpose, such clarity of vision. She made a gesture that Rex recognized as a sign of respect in Zarnak culture. When a human says, "We're done talking," everyone goes silent. It is a lesson my people needed to learn. Rex remained cautious. And the Ascension Protocol? The matriarch's crest rippled with surprise. You know of this? We intercepted communications. What is it? After a moment's hesitation, the matriarch gestured to the control panel on her throne. It was to be our final option, a network of gravimetric devices capable of destabilizing planetary crusts. Not planet killers, precisely, but enough to render worlds uninhabitable for generations. Rex felt a cold anger rising within him. You would destroy entire worlds? Only as a deterrent, the matriarch assured him. A final safeguard against extinction. But your actions today have convinced me that such measures are unnecessary, perhaps even counterproductive. She returned to the throne and pressed a sequence of controls. Throughout the chamber, indicators that had glowed with latent energy began to dim. I am deactivating the protocol, she explained. "Consider it a gesture of good faith." Rex tapped his comm unit. "Lieutenant Jennings, we're secure. The matriarch has agreed to accompany us voluntarily." "Copy that, Captain," came the surprised response. "Standing by for extraction." As Rex escorted the matriarch toward the chamber entrance, she paused, looking back at the throne that had been her command center. "Your Admiral Vance is wise to send you, Captain Halverson. Few would have recognized the opportunity beneath the conflict." Meaning? This confrontation was inevitable, perhaps even necessary. Now, both our species can move forward with clear understanding rather than veiled suspicion. Rex considered her words. "That's a rather philosophical view of an armed conflict. The cosmos is vast, Captain, and filled with threats far greater than our petty territorial disputes. Perhaps, in time, our peoples will stand together against such threats." As they reached the chamber entrance, a commotion erupted from the passage beyond. Lieutenant Jennings appeared, his expression urgent. "Captain, we've got company. Zarnak reinforcements approaching from the main entrance." Rex turned to the matriarch. "You're doing?" "No," she replied, her crest flattening with concern. "My royal guard. They operate under standing orders to protect me at all costs. They may not yet be aware of our arrangement." "How many?" "At least 20 elite warriors, possibly more." Rex made a quick decision. "We need an alternate exit. Is there another way out of this complex?" The matriarch nodded. "A secondary passage, used for ceremonial purposes. It leads to the base of the third spire. Jennings, take Fire Team Bravo and secure that exit. We'll be right behind you." As the Marines moved to comply, Rex heard the sounds of combat from the main passage, energy weapons fire, and the distinctive hissing of agitated Zarnak. The Royal Guard had encountered the Marines left to secure their approach. "We need to move now," Rex urged, guiding the matriarch toward the secondary passage she had indicated. They had barely entered the narrow corridor when an explosion rocked the chamber behind them. Dust and debris filled the air as part of the ceiling collapsed. "They're using mining charges," the matriarch observed, her voice steady despite the danger. "My guard can be overzealous in their duties." Rex activated his tactical light as they hurried through the darkened passage. "Seems to be a common trait among your people." "A product of our evolutionary history, Captain. When one evolves on a world of apex predators, caution and decisive action become ingrained." The passage twisted and turned, climbing steadily upward. Rex could hear the sounds of combat growing more distant behind them, but new noises ahead indicated Fire Team Bravo had encountered resistance at the exit as well. His comm unit crackled with Lieutenant Jennings' voice, partially obscured by static. "Heavy resistance, pinned down, request immediate." "Jennings, repeat," Rex demanded, but received only static in response. "The passage walls contain mineral deposits that interfere with communications," the matriarch explained. "We are effectively isolated until we reach the exit." Rex checked his sidearm. "Then we proceed with caution. Stay behind me." They continued upward, the passage gradually widening as they approached the surface. Natural light began to filter in from ahead. They were nearing the exit. Rex halted at the final bend, listening intently. The sounds of combat had ceased, replaced by an ominous silence. Either Fire Team Bravo had secured the exit, or... "Wait here," he instructed the matriarch, moving forward to assess the situation. The passage opened onto a small plateau at the base of the third spire. Rex could see the red dust of Jatar 4 swirling in the breeze, the lavender sky beyond. But of Fire Team Bravo, there was no sign, only scattered equipment and signs of a brief, intense struggle. As Rex stepped cautiously onto the plateau, movement caught his eye. From behind rock formations and crevices, Zarnak Royal Guards emerged, at least a dozen, their ceremonial armor gleaming in the alien sunlight, weapons trained on his position. And in their midst stood a Zarnak elder, His scales faded with age, but his posture still proud and defiant. Unlike the guards, he wore no armor, only elaborate robes marked with symbols of Zarnak's spiritual authority. "Captain Halverson," the elder spoke, his voice cracking with age. "You have taken much from us this day, but you shall not take our matriarch." Rex assessed the situation with clinical detachment. He was outnumbered, outgunned, with no immediate support. Fire Team Bravo had been captured or worse. His comm unit remained useless this close to the mineral-rich spires. Yet, he stood his ground, hand resting near his sidearm, but not drawing it. "Elder, I come under the protection of diplomatic arrangement with your matriarch. She has agreed to accompany me voluntarily." The elder's crest flattened with scorn. "Impossible! The matriarch would never—" "He speaks the truth, Elder Krastok." The Zarnak guards turned in surprise as the matriarch emerged from the passage behind Rex. She moved with regal confidence, her gaze sweeping over her subjects. "Lower your weapons," she commanded. "This human is under my protection." The guards hesitated, looking to the elder for guidance. "My matriarch," the elder protested. "These humans have attacked our installations, killed our warriors. They must not be allowed to—" "Silence." The matriarch's voice cut through the elder's objections like a blade. "The humans have demonstrated their resolve in a manner we cannot ignore. The time for deception and maneuvering has passed." She moved to stand beside Rex, a gesture not lost on the watching Zarnak. "Where is the human fire team that approached this position?" One of the guards gestured to a nearby outcropping. "Contained. Highest one. They live, as per standing orders regarding potential hostages." Rex felt a measure of relief. At least his people were still alive. "Release them," the matriarch ordered. "And stand down your weapons. Captain Halverson and his forces are to be given safe passage back to their vessel." The elder stepped forward, his aged features contorted with what Rex recognized as the Zarnak expression of disbelief. "Highest one, I must object. The sacred texts speak of resilience in the face of adversity, not surrender to lesser species. The texts also speak of wisdom, Elder Krastok, of recognizing when the currents of fate shift." The matriarch's secondary eyelids flickered with irritation. "I have made my decision. The Ascension Protocol is deactivated. Our forces will withdraw from Treaty Worlds. A new understanding will be forged with humanity." The elder's shoulders slumped in defeat. "As you command, Highest One." At a gesture from the elder, the guards lowered their weapons and moved to release Fire Team Bravo. Lieutenant Jennings emerged from confinement, his uniform dusty, but his bearing still professional as he approached Rex. "Captain, situation?" "Under control. Lieutenant, the matriarch has agreed to terms. We're extracting with her to the embassy." Jennings nodded, though his wary gaze remained on the Zarnak guards. "Takeda is standing by for extraction. He's holding position behind the second ridge." Rex tapped his comm unit, which had begun functioning again now that they were clear of the mineral interference. "Takeda, this is Halverson. Approach extraction point Alpha. We have the package and additional diplomatic personnel." "Copy that, Captain. ETA 3 minutes." As they waited for the dropship, Rex observed the interaction between the matriarch and the elder. Though he couldn't understand their native language, the body language suggested a heated disagreement. The elder, gesturing emphatically, while the matriarch remained impassive, occasionally making sharp, decisive gestures that silenced the older Zarnak. Finally, the elder bowed his head in submission and withdrew, leaving the matriarch standing alone among her guards. She returned to Rex's side. "Elder Krastok represents the old way of thinking among my people. He views your species as a temporary phenomenon, a flash of light soon to be extinguished by the eternal darkness of space." "And you disagree?" "I have studied your history, Captain. Your kind has faced extinction many times, from nature, from yourselves, from the harsh realities of space. Yet you persist, adapt, overcome. It would be foolish to dismiss such resilience. The distant whine of engines announced the dropship's approach. As it descended toward the plateau, the Zarnak guards tensed, but maintained their positions, honoring their matriarch's commands. "Your people will accept this change of policy?" Rex asked, as they prepared to board. The matriarch's secondary eyelids flickered in what might have been amusement. "They will adapt, Captain, as all successful species must." The dropship touched down, its side hatch opening to reveal Takeda at the controls, his expression registering surprise at the sight of the Zarnak matriarch. "Special passenger, Captain." "Diplomatic escort," Rex replied. "Get us back to the embassy." As Fire Team Bravo boarded the vessel, Rex noticed movement near one of the rock formations. A small figure, half hidden in the shadows. A Zarnak child, watching the proceedings with wide, frightened eyes. The matriarch followed his gaze. "The elder's grandson," she explained, "being groomed for the priesthood." Rex hesitated, then approached the young Zarnak. The child flinched, but stood his ground, his tiny crest rising in a display of courage that seemed almost comical on one so small. Kneeling to bring himself closer to the child's level, Rex spoke softly. "There's nothing to fear. This conflict is ending." The young Zarnak's secondary eyelids flickered rapidly. "The elders say humans bring only destruction." "Sometimes," Rex acknowledged, "but today, we bring change. Your matriarch is wise enough to see that." The child seemed unconvinced. "Will you take her away forever?" "No. She'll return when our leaders have spoken. In the meantime," Rex glanced back at the dropship, then to the child. "Remember to breathe. That's what matters most. In the end, just keep breathing." The young Zarnak's crest rippled with confusion, but he nodded slowly. Rex returned to the dropship, where the matriarch waited at the hatch. "A surprisingly gentle touch, Captain, for one who began this day with such decisive violence." "Different approaches for different situations," Rex replied, as they boarded. "Something both our species could learn." The dropship lifted off, rising above the spires and accelerating toward the embassy complex. Through the viewport, Rex could see the continuing operations on Jatar 4's surface, human forces securing positions, Zarnak troops withdrawing in orderly formations. Already, word of the matriarch's decision was spreading. The conflict that had threatened to explode into full-scale war was instead cooling into an uneasy, but promising, new equilibrium. His comm unit chimed with an incoming transmission from Admiral Vance. "Captain Halverson, report. Mission accomplished. Admiral, the matriarch is secure and has agreed to terms. Zarnak forces are withdrawing from all contested positions." There was a moment of silence before Vance responded. "Extraordinary work, Captain. The Directorate will be most pleased. Bring her to the embassy. A diplomatic delegation is already en route to formalize the agreement." "Yes, sir. ETA 10 minutes. As Rex ended the transmission, he noticed the matriarch studying him with her alien gaze. "Your Admiral sounds satisfied. As well he should be. This day marks a significant shift in the balance of power among the stars." "That wasn't our objective," Rex clarified. "We sought only to end a direct threat to human worlds." "Perhaps, but the effects will reach far beyond your immediate concerns." The matriarch's secondary eyelids flickered thoughtfully. "Word will spread quickly. When a human says we're done talking, everyone goes silent. Other species will take note." Rex had no response to that. The implications of today's actions would indeed reach far beyond Jatar 4, perhaps reshaping humanity's position in the galactic community for generations to come. The dropship began its final approach to the embassy complex, now secure under human control. On the landing pad, Commander Vega waited with a security detail and what appeared to be a hastily assembled honor guard, a diplomatic gesture to acknowledge the matriarch's status. As they touched down and the hatch opened, Rex turned to the Zarnak leader. "Ready for a new chapter in our shared history." The matriarch rose to her full height, adjusting her ceremonial headdress. Captain Halverson, your species has existed among the stars for less than a century. My kind has watched suns live and die. Yet today, you have taught us something valuable about clarity and resolve. She stepped toward the hatch, then paused. Remember this moment, Captain. It may well be remembered by both our peoples for millennia to come. With that, she descended from the dropship, her regal bearing drawing immediate attention from all present. Commander Vega stepped forward with a formal salute, which the matriarch acknowledged with a graceful inclination of her head. Rex followed, feeling the weight of the day's events settling on his shoulders. What had begun with a simple declaration, "We're done talking," had culminated in a fundamental shift in human-Zarnak relations. As he watched the matriarch being escorted into the embassy, Rex noticed the resolute hammer gliding silently over Jatar's moon in the distance, a massive human warship, its presence both a promise and a warning to all who might witness it. Peace through strength, clarity through decisive action. These were the lessons of today, lessons that would echo across the stars for years to come. For in the vast expanse of space, where countless civilizations competed for resources and influence, humanity had established a simple but powerful truth. When a human says, "We're done talking," everyone goes silent. And in that silence, perhaps a more honest dialogue could finally begin.